Two men enter a home office on the second floor of a large farmhouse. They are both carrying glasses of liquor. Roger reaches over and turns on the light. They each sit in overstuffed chairs. Keith says, "Rog man, I don't know how you did it, but this is great." He shakes his head in amazement. Keith and Roger had been friends since junior high school when Roger befriended Keith on his first day at a new school. They were now in their early 30s. After high school, Keith, always one for the easy way out, got a job in a factory. He wanted no part of any more schooling. Roger, on the other hand, went on to college, and try as he might, he couldn't convince Keith to join him. Keith was married by his 20th birthday and had Roger as his reluctant best man. Roger had tried to tell him that she wasn't the one, but once again, Keith wouldn't hear of it. He and his wife Shelley had 2 girls, and he despised them. They were divorced soon after the birth of their second daughter. Then Keith got laid off when the market turned sour. He bounced around from job to job, never liking anyone enough to care, and would eventually get let go. Roger, on the other hand, had gotten a go job with a major company as an electronics engineer. They had lost touch after that. Keith couldn't stand how well Roger was doing, and Roger couldn't handle Keith's bad attitude. Then, after nearly 5 years, Roger called him out of the blue. Keith went for dinner and was very impressed with all Roger had attained. He had a hard time keeping his envy at bay, but somehow managed it. The converted farmhouse, in a small town outside of Chicago, was spectacular. It had all the yuppie conveniences. Big screen TV, a jacuzzi, a large swimming pool. The barn had been converted to store Roger's classic muscle cars. The whole place reeked of overspending. At least it did to Keith. Roger broke Keith's thoughts by saying, "So? You like it?" Keith's held envy reared its ugly head, and he said, "Is that why you invited me here? To rub my nose in this? You're living in the lap of luxury, and I'm scrounging to live from day to day." Roger was shocked. "You mean all this?" He waved his hand. "These are just things. No, I didn't invite you to rub your nose in it. I think I may have found a way to help you and help me in the process." "Oh, I'm all ears," Keith said sarcastically. "Look, man. I'm trying to help you out, and all you're doing is making snide remarks. I know that you're in over your head with this child support shit, and I have found a way that I can help you while you help me," Roger said defensively. Keith's attitude softened. "Okay, I'm sorry." He paused a moment. Roger was right. He was in over his head. He had ducked and hid out from them for so long that he'd amassed quite a balance. He figured that since Shelley kept him from seeing the kids, why should he give her a single cent when he needed all he made just to pay his bills? Now the Child Support Enforcement Agency was after him in a big way. "How did you know I was in trouble with child support?" "Someone contacted me in regards to your whereabouts," Roger stated. Keith got a little nervous. Was that what this was all about? A ploy to get information on him for child support? Nah, he knew how to find Keith if he wanted to turn him in. He did need help and figured that he had better listen to Roger, for now. "What did you have in mind?" "Well, we know about your problem, let me tell you mine. When I got hired for my job, I was just out of college and I had no practical experience. It was hard to get an interview, let alone a job. I got in here on an apprenticeship program for family persons. In order to get into the program, I had to lie a little. I said that I was married and that my wife was going to have a baby. I also said that I had a daughter that was 3 years old. Okay? What's the problem? That was 7 years ago. I'm sure that if no one checked by now, that they're not going to. I mean, you have to have proved yourself by now? Keith asked. Well, it's not that simple. Now I have to go to Jamaica with the company president for 2 months. So? I'm expected to bring my family with me. Roger was visibly upset. And your point would be? He is the one who started the program. He will remember, and if I don't have a family, I will lose my job for falsifying documents. Do you know how impossible it will be to find a job after that? Roger questioned. What could I do? Keith shrugged. Let me tell you. I need people to pose as my family, he said, almost sulking. Again I ask, what can I do? I'm a man, I can't pretend to be your wife. Well, no. I have a wife. Roger stated, and Keith got confused. Oh, then what, pray tell, do you want me to do about it? Keith said. Well, I have someone to be my wife and I have someone to buy my 8-year-old son. Will you quit beating around the bush? Okay, I need you to be my daughter. He finally revealed. What? Your daughter? How can I be your daughter? Keith asked. It's quite simple, really. Since your brain is made up of electronic type functions, all I have to do is tell your brain that you are a girl, and since your brain controls your body, it will tell your body and your body will conform to being a girl. He said. You're going to make me think I'm a girl? No, we can't affect one's mind, only the physical brain. Roger explained. How are you going to do this? Keith said skeptically. That's what we've been researching in the department I work in. A way to reverse aging, or rather a way to stop it. By using special hookups, I can connect you to my computer, and with a program I can reprogram your brain. You will still be you, you'll just have the body of a young girl. That's why I need for you to cooperate with me. In exchange for your becoming my daughter for a while. I will pay off your back child support and make your current payments. I will then deduct $200 a week from your loan until you have worked off your debt. Plus take care of your needs as my daughter. Those won't be charged to you. After all, a father is responsible to pay for his children. Roger concluded. That's crazy. Even if you can make me a girl, and I highly doubt it, then I would be like that for 4 years. Keith said aghast. 4 years and 2 months. Roger amended. Get fucked. Keith said and stormed out of the room, down the steps, and was headed for the door when he heard Roger from upstairs. Come back and let me know if you change your mind. Don't wait too long, though. I need to find someone quickly. Keith never answered, he just slammed the door on his way out. He got in his car and squealed out of the driveway. He took off down the road like a bat out of hell. About 2 miles from Roger's house, Keith saw flashing lights in his rearview mirror. Shit! He exclaimed and pulled over. The cruiser slowed down and was pulling up behind him when suddenly it pulled back onto the road and took off. Keith could see the officer talking on his radio. It was only by sheer luck that he wasn't sitting in the back of that car right now. He just sat there a moment with his heart in his throat. Slowly, he turned the car around and drove back to Roger's house. Nervously, Keith knocked on the door. Roger answered it and let him in. Keith, obviously shaken, said, Damn! I almost got busted. He paused. I'll do it. How old will I be? Never mind, I don't want to know. Just do it. How long will it take? Roger smiled. Not long. Come on, I have everything set up in the basement. The 2 men went into the basement. Keith undressed and sat in the chair as Roger had instructed. Roger went about hooking up electrodes to Keith in various places. When he was finished, he went to a computer terminal and began typing on the keyboard. Then he turned to Keith and said, "All set. Ready or not, here it comes." Before Keith had a chance to refuse, he hit enter. There weren't any lights or whirring noises. Just the soft hum of computer processor. "It'll only take a few minutes," Roger told him. Keith tried to answer and found that he could not move his mouth or any other part of his body. He just sat and let it happen. What choice did he have? As Roger watched the process he'd seen a few times before, too, right here in his own basement, he thought about how easy it had been to get his friend into the chair. He didn't like lying to his friends, but he was desperate. He had to produce a family and fast. He smiled as he thought about the look on Keith's face when he came back. It had only cost him $100 for that look. The officer was more than willing to attempt to pull Keith over for the money. He chuckled softly. He noticed that things were beginning to happen and came out of his thoughts. Keith sat silently and looked at the mirror that Roger had set up in front of the chair. He saw himself, the body he'd seen in the mirror all of his adult life. His legs were slightly spread and he could see his manhood in all its glory. The entire front of his body was exposed to the mirror. A chill raced through him as he looked at himself. If this thing worked like Roger said, it would be a long time before he saw this image in the mirror again. He began to feel an odd sensation all over his body. He had never felt anything like it and could find no way to describe it if he had to. As he watched in the mirror, he noticed that his hair was getting lighter and his bald spots were filling in. His skin was getting softer and all his body hair fell out to be replaced with soft fine hair. Then he began to shrink, his manhood shrinking faster than the rest of him. His hair had become honey blonde with a reddish tint and was now growing past his shoulders, which were visibly smaller. He guessed that he was about the right size for a petite woman at the moment. It had been about 10 minutes since he first felt the changes. His genitals continued to shrink, and even though he knew they would, he was still a little shocked at their quick retreat. He saw that his nipples were expanding slightly, then they too began to shrink. After 20 minutes, all that was left of his manhood was the head of his penis that barely stuck out of the top of a defined slit. Below it he could see more of the slit. It appeared to be slightly opened but not enough to see anything inside. His arms and legs were not very thin and he could see a slight flare to his hips. Not what one would see on a woman, but then he wasn't going to be a woman now, was he? His feet had left the floor and only his toes touched, now after 30 minutes, and his shoulders were now level with the back of the chair. His face was pretty and his hair now reached his small shoulder blades. He looked at the overall form in the mirror and realized that no matter what he used to be, he was now, without a doubt, a little girl. He or she was a little shocked at how young she was now. It wasn't evident on her pretty face since she couldn't move the muscles in it. She thought that she was going to be a young teenage girl. She hadn't even reached puberty and looked like she couldn't be more than 10 years old. She finally felt her mobility returning. She looked over at Roger and saw that he appeared to be enjoying the whole thing. She even noticed a slight bulge in his pants. Roger began taking all the electrodes off of the girl that now sat where Keith had. "You'll be able to move better in a few minutes," he told her as he took the last one off. "You turned out to be very pretty." After working with the computer for a few minutes and taking a diskette out of the drive, Roger turned back to the girl and helped her up. The first thing she noticed was that she was only as tall as his chest. Her feet and hands looked so small to her now. Roger led her to a cot that sat up in the corner and laid her down. He began to touch and feel her body to make sure that everything was as it should be. Then he lifted her legs and spread them. He gently spread her vagina open and looked inside with the indifference of a doctor. He was only looking to see that everything was okay or if he had to hook her back up and rework her. Satisfied, he put her legs down and helped her up. By now she was better able to move on her own, but was still a little wobbly. "How do you feel?" he asked her. "I feel." She stopped at the sound of her new voice. "I feel a little dizzy, but I feel fine otherwise," she replied. "How old am I?" "I'll explain everything in a few minutes. First, let's get you upstairs and get you dressed." He took her hand and helped her up the basement steps. She couldn't believe that she was actually a little girl. Oh, she knew that she had become a little girl, but she still didn't want to believe it. Her body moved differently than she was used to. She could feel her hips sway back and forth as she walked and her hair bush against her bare back. At least she didn't have to deal with breasts. The vacancy in his crotch was making him a little frantic. He knew that he would get used to it, but in the meantime... They climbed the stairs and she had to exert more effort to get up each step. The distance had grown since the last time she had climbed them and she had to step up higher. Finally, they crested the top step, with Roger still holding her hand. He led her to a room just past the office they had been in earlier that evening. That door had stretched to her as well. Roger opened the next door and led her into her new bedroom. It was decorated in pink and white. The walls were white and the curtains were pink. There was a canopy bed with a pink chiffon canopy and comforter. The frame and posts were white with gold trim and the dressers and vanity matched. There was also a full-length mirror on the wall with a frame that matched the furniture. Roger released her hand and opened the top drawer of a dresser. He took out a pair of cotton panties with Friday embossed on them in pale pink and that had pink lace trim around the waist and legs. He tossed them to her. "You mean I have to wear girls' clothes?" she asked. "Well, you are a girl, are you not?" was the reply. She looked down at herself and shrugged. "Yeah, I guess so." She put them on. She looked at them and shuddered a little because they fit so perfectly. Like they were made for her. He opened the next drawer down and handed her what she thought was a t-shirt, but turned out to be a night shirt when she opened it to put it on. It had a picture of a piece of cake on it and across the top it read, "Sugar and Spice." The bottom said, "And everything nice." She blushed thinking that was what she was made of. She put it on. Roger handed her a pair of bunny slippers and she slid them on her feet. She looked at herself and thought she looked ridiculous and then walked over and looked in the mirror and thought she was going to die. She looked like the cutest little girl she'd ever seen. Roger took a brush off the vanity and bushed her hair. Then he told her to sit on the bed. He smiled at his new daughter and said, "You are adorable." She blushed, then he continued. "Okay, I lied to you about the process a little. I want to test something. What is your name?" "You know that my name is Gail." "No, it's Gail." She was trying to say Keith. A confused look crossed her pretty face. "How old are you?" "I'm really 10 years old." "No, wait. I'm really 10? I programmed some things into your mind." "Gender?" "Girl." She had less reaction now. "Who am I?" "My daddy." A little more sure of herself, but still a little nervous about having her mind messed with. "Don't worry. You still know who you really are, or who you used to be." "Who did you used to be?" "Keith Richard Weebush." "Who are you?" "Gail Marie Kirksey." She was now slightly amazed. "Of course, I'm the only one you can tell about having been Keith. You'll forget when you try to tell anyone else." He stated flatly. I can't risk you telling anyone what happened here tonight. Okay, honey, stand up. She did. Now stand on one foot. She did. She was standing in front of the window and looked out. Her car was gone. Panicked, she said. Daddy! My car is gone. I took care of it, dear. You're not going to need it now. When you are, I'll get you another one. He said. Okay. She said, noticing that she was still standing on one foot and it was beginning to hurt. She just kept standing like that. Finally, she asked, Daddy, can I put my foot down? He laughed a little. Yes, you may, sweetie. You see, you will obey me in everything? She nodded. Come on, let's go meet your mother and your brother. He took her hand and led her downstairs. In the living room, Gail saw a woman sitting on the couch with her legs crossed at the knees. Her breasts looked huge, then she realized that she was small. She seemed oddly nervous. There was a smaller boy sitting next to her and looking equally nervous. The woman spoke. Hello, you must be Gail. I guess I'm your mother and this is your little brother Marky. Timidly she said. Hi, Mommy, Marky. She looked up at Roger and he was beaming. He said. Okay, we all have a week to get used to this new arrangement and it's off to Jamaica. Everyone just looked at each other. Oh, let's not get all excited, you might give yourselves heart attacks. They all brightened up a little, but it was obvious that it was just an act. That's better. It won't be that bad. You'll see. I'm sure that you'll actually come to enjoy the way you are. They looked nervously at each other. Oh, come on. If you don't cheer up, I could erase you memories so you'll be happy not knowing that you were anything other than who you are. They all pretend to be happy. Children, go into the den so your mother and I can talk. You can turn on the television. Gail followed Marky into the den. Marky turned the TV on and turned up the volume. He turned to Gail and said, Now we can talk for a few minutes. He sat on the couch next to her and touched her arm. Wow, Keith, you're so soft now. She was taken aback that he knew who she was and that he could say her real name. He noticed and replied to unspoken question. I know I couldn't say that outside this house. I know who you are because I know what he was planning. Keith, I'm going to tell you something that's going to be hard for you to deal with. I am Roger. She looked at him confused. No, our Daddy is in the living room with Mommy. Then it dawned on her. She said, still self-conscious of her voice. If you are Roger? Who is Daddy? That's Shelley, and Mom used to be my research partner and Shelley's boyfriend. She transferred enough of my memories to her so that she could impersonate me. He concluded. Gail was stunned. When did she turn you into a boy? A couple days ago. I'm real sorry. At least I'm still a guy. She wanted to humiliate you more than me. Although, I did lie to get my job and I did say I had a daughter and a son. I didn't need to create one. She found out about all that from Rick, my partner. I'll bet he wishes he wasn't so loose-lipped now that he lost his manhood. You keep talking like it's permanent. She is going to turn us all back, right? She said with her eyes wide. She told us that at first, too. We knew that she did it in a way that would make it permanent. You're going to be a female for the rest of your life. She sat back in shock. Softly she began to cry. That's what I did when I realized it. Look on the bright side, at least we're going through it together. She looked at him and smiled. That was some comfort. They heard a man clear his throat and looked at the door in horror to find their new father standing there. He said, "It's okay, Marky, I wanted her to know and would have told her sooner or later. You see, Keith, you adorable little cream puff. I wanted to get even for you leaving me and Roger for urging you to do so. I gave custody of the girls to my mother and you will finally get to spend time with them when you go back to school. Going to Jamaica with my boss is a way for me to climb another rung on the ladder, so the raise I'll get will be your way of paying me the back child support you owe me. Besides, I made sure that you will never get a woman pregnant and leave her with children." The girl was aghast. "Oh, come on. Look on the bright side. You got what you've wanted for a long time. You finally don't have any of a man's responsibilities and never will." She laughed. "Now it's time for you two to go to bed." He winked at Gail. After all, a girl needs her beauty sleep if she's ever going to grow up and get a man to marry her. He laughed as the children got up and walked past him. "Give me a kiss good night and don't forget to kiss your mother. She's still a little upset, but she'll get used to it as you will." Marky said good night, Dad, and gave Roger a hug and a kiss and walked towards the living room to kiss his mother good night. Gail said, "Good night, Daddy." She hugged him and he squeezed her tight. Then she obediently followed her brother Marky into the living room. Then she and Marky went to bed and got the sleep they would need to begin their new lives as brother and sister.